MCAT 2017 Cram, Biochemical and Biological Foundations of Living Systems, Passage 12, Brown Adipose Tissue and Metabolism. As you view the reading of the passage, you'll notice some highlighted snippets of text. What I want you to do is garner meaning from these specific selections in order to answer the questions that follow. Good luck and happy reading. Paragraph 1. There are two main types of adipose tissue in the body, white and brown. While white adipose tissue is located primarily beneath the skin throughout the body, brown adipose tissue is only found in a few specific locations. In rodents, like most mammals, brown fat is located in the subscapular region and in the areas surrounding the aorta. It is ubiquitous in both newborns and adults. In humans, brown fat was originally thought to be prevalent in newborns, but newer studies indicate that brown fat exists in the neck and upper chest of adult humans. In fact, it has also been discovered that the amount of brown adipose tissue in adult humans varies with an individual's body mass index. That's BMI for short. Paragraph 2. To understand the function of brown fat, scientists took adult rats under anesthesia and inserted thermal probes in the midbrain, colon, and interscapular fat. The scientists then proceeded to measure the rat's body temperature at these various locations while the rats were exposed to external temperatures of 31 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius. The scientists also recorded the amount of oxygen the adult rats consume during the experiment. All of the results are detailed in Figure 1. Figure 1. Change in the inner body temperature of the rat colon, brain, and interscapular fat as the rat is exposed to an 11 degrees Celsius drop in external temperature. At the bottom of the graph, the amount of consumed oxygen as a function of time is recorded as well. Okay. Paragraph 3. Another team of scientists discovered that the brown color of brown adipose tissue was due to the fact that brown adipose cells are filled with mitochondria, and upon further investigation, the brown adipose mitochondria were discovered to contain a unique protein called UCP, which stands for Uncoupling Protein. The scientists found that UCP is usually present in a membrane, and UCP is a special transporter protein that uses a fatty acid inside of the transporter protein to facilitate transport of hydrogen ions across the membrane. The rate of diffusion of hydrogen ions across UCP depends only on the relative concentration of hydrogen cations. Figure 2 shows the location of UCP relative to the ATPase and the electron transport chain, all of which are located in a phospholipid bilayer. Let's take a look at Figure 2. Figure 2. Brown adipose mitochondria differ from regular mitochondria in the addition of UCP. Okay, so this is the difference between brown adipose mitochondria and mitochondria found in other cells throughout the body. This drawing depicts the location of UCP, ATPase, and the electron transport chain inside of brown adipose tissue. All proteins, as you can see, are embedded in a membrane indicated by the gray line. All right? According to Figure 2, if some hydrogen ions pass through UCP, what happens to the production of ATP compared to a mitochondria without UCP? Will it be A, the production of ATP decreases? Will it be B, the production of ATP increases? Is it C, the production of ATP drops to 0? Or is it D, the production of ATP stays the same? I'll give you a moment to think. You can have outside knowledge that allows you to answer this, but if you carefully peruse the picture, you'll gain an understanding for the correct answer choice. All right. Okay, so the acronym UCP stands for Uncoupling Protein. So the name uncoupling kind of gives you a big hint as to what the answer choice is. But let's break this down. UCP and ATPase are both located on the same membrane within the mitochondria. ATPase is powered by a concentration gradient. Okay, you can see the circuit flowing through the electron transport chain. So you can kind of think of hydrogen cations as gasoline in the fuel tank for ATPase. And if you drain it via UCP, then you can kind of guess what's going to happen. The production of ATP will decrease, okay? UCP basically diverts protons away from ATPase, lowering the hydrogen concentration gradient used to power ATPase. With a lower hydrogen concentration, hydrogen ion concentration that is, so with a lower gradient, fewer ATPs will be produced per glucose molecule. All right? Okay. Brown adipose tissue has similar features to which other type of tissue? Is it going to be A, muscle cells, B, skin cells, C, epithelial cells, or D, neural cells? I'll give you a moment to think. Brown adipose cells are filled with mitochondria. That's what gives them their brown tint. Brown adipose cells participate in body temperature regulation. Interestingly enough, both brown adipose tissue and muscle cells are derived from the same stem cells. Both skeletal muscle and brown adipose tissue have more mitochondria per cell than any other cell type in the body, such as epithelial, skin, or white adipose tissue, okay? So both skeletal muscle cells and brown adipose tissue participate in body temperature regulation. Hence, what is most likely the main function of brown adipose tissue? Is it A, it participates in generating heat for the body? Is it B, it produces hormones that regulate body temperature? Is it C, it participates in cooling the body temperature? Or is it D, it is essential to fat storage for later use in a metabolic pathway? I'll give you a moment to think. Okay, because of the diverted hydrogen cations via the UCP protein, energy is diverted away from ATP production via ATPase. Now, I don't have figure 1 pictured here, the graph, because it's really faint, but if you go back and take a look at figure 1, When the external temperature decreases, the internal temperature in brown subscapular fat increases, okay? Figure 1 confirms that brown adipose tissue starts to generate heat only when the body is exposed to cold external temperature. The energy generated inside the mitochondria makes the brown adipose tissue a location where the body basically generates heat, all right? Moreover, brown fat's location around the aorta would indicate an evolutionary adaptation to maintain the blood at a warm temperature. That's really cool. All right? Okay. Which one of the following statements about brown adipose tissue is true? Is it A, there is an increased number of capillaries surrounding brown adipose tissue? Is it B, more lactic acid is stored inside brown adipose tissue than in white adipose tissue? Is it C, an increase in brown adipose tissue causes the body to respond with excess shivering? Or is it D, in the intermembrane space of the mitochondria, there is lower than normal pH levels? You decide. I'll give you a moment to think. Now, this answer can be reasoned through a few thought steps, okay? So this is the nice part about these biochem questions. It's not just purely science. You can put your thinking cap on and reason in an if-then fashion, okay? All right, hopefully by now you've arrived at the correct answer choice, but if not, that's totally fine. Let's take a look. All right, so let's discuss this in a few thought steps, okay? The first thing from the passage that you can consider is the information in figure 1. I'm, again, not going to show figure 1 here because it's very faint and that would defeat the purpose. But if you go back and see it enlarged, you'll notice that oxygen is required once the rats are exposed to a colder temperature, okay? And if hydrogen ions are diverted away from ATPase, more molecules of glucose are ultimately going to be needed per cell to produce the same number of ATP molecules as a regular cell, okay? Thus, to provide more oxygen and glucose, brown adipose tissue has an increased number of capillaries. This is a stained histological view of brown adipose tissue. I doubt these are capillaries, but they give you the feel of it being transversed by capillaries. Okay, that's why I have it here. So yeah, they're going to have an increased number of capillaries surrounding it, okay, to do the job of delivering more glucose molecules and oxygen for the electron transport chain. All right? Okay. How does brown adipose tissue vary with an adult human's BMI? For reference, a BMI above 30 is considered clinically obese, while a BMI less than 25 is considered clinically not obese. A, higher levels of brown adipose tissue correspond with lower BMI because every glucose molecule produces fewer ATP molecules for the cell, so the body consumes more glucose. OMG, that's like another passage. And I anticipate that the rest of the answer choices are as well. B, higher levels of brown adipose tissue correspond with a higher BMI because the body has more mass it needs to heat, so the body increases brown fat to create energy sources. C, lower levels of brown adipose tissue correspond with higher BMI because every glucose molecule produces fewer ATP molecules for the cell, so the body consumes more glucose. Or is it D, lower levels of brown adipose tissue correspond to lower BMI Because the body has less mass, it needs to heat. So the body eliminates brown fat to conserve energy. All right, so you be the judge. I'll give you a moment to think. Okay. Okay, so it's not going to be that difficult to reason through this. A high BMI, you may need some outside knowledge of body mass index, indicates the body has more food resources stored as fat compared to a body with a lower BMI, but brown adipose tissue is not used as food storage, okay? All cells must maintain a base level of ATP for I'm not even sure if that's a word, for normal cellular activity. Since fewer ATP molecules are created per molecule of glucose inside the mitochondria of brown adipose tissue, the cell uses up more glucose than normal to generate the ATP needed to basically support normal cellular activity, okay? So the correct answer choice is going to be answer choice A. As a result, humans with more brown adipose tissue tend to have lower BMIs, okay? All right,